Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the latest episode of Out of the Groove Power Hour, powered by Circle B Diecast. I am your host, Eric Giestepp, joined as always by NASCAR driver extraordinaire Brennan Poole. Brennan, your hair is looking especially bright and lovely today. This is like a beautiful way to start my morning. It's like watching the sun rise there.
Thanks,
it's looking nice.
Eric. I'm trying to, Eminem put out a new song, so I don't know. Can't really,
This is a hair episode. I mean, my hair, I used to have really crazy looking hair. I've dialed it down in recent years. You've got great hair. And we'll be joined by Josh Williams in a short bit, who arguably has the best hair, at least in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. You're going to have to fight him on that one.
How much do you want to bet on that he makes a Slim Shady reference when he sees me?
Let's hope for it. Okay, we can only hope.
Let's hope for it.
This episode, as is every episode, is sponsored by Circle B Diecast. Brennan, I've got a 1/64 scale car to show off. I typically go more new school, I know, on this. You typically go more old school. I'm going very new school on this. Hopefully the camera can pick it up. I am holding up currently, for our listening audience, a Alex Bowman Nashville Ally paint scheme. I love the Ally Nashville schemes they do every year. They add a little Music City flair to it. And just this week, Dale Earnhardt Jr., I think it's Ryan Williams over there, they collaborate and design this scheme every year. They just unveiled the 2024 edition, which looks really nice, but I'm especially partial to this old 2020. I think this is the 2023 car. Looks really great. Anyway, Brennan.
Way to tie that into the news. Way to tie it into the news. You're such a professional.
Last week, you brought in a Tony Stewart car to tie into the Stewart Haas stuff. I'm doing my best over here.
I'm not tying it into anything.
All right, this week's a random one. All right, let's.
It's just a random one. He is a Texas guy, and I am from Texas, so
yeah, there you go.
Let's bring it up. This is the Terry Labonte. All right, Roadrunner car, Kellogg's Roadrunner car. I have a lot of the Looney Tunes cars.
I've got a Jeff Gordon one somewhere. I need to get it back out.
It even says beep beep on the trunk. So this is a cool one. I have to have the Texas guys. You know what I mean? There's
Absolutely.
Not a whole lot of us. It's just me and Chris Buescher now.
Yeah.
So we got to stay strong for the Labontes, okay?
Yeah. Got to protect the Labontes at all costs. I like that. Well, as always, if you are listening to this, you can head to circlebdiecast.com and use code OOTG to get discounted shipping. Got some comments on our last episode, people taking advantage of that special offer, that special deal. That's always great to hear. We love the support we get from Circle B Diecast. Be sure to show them some support in return. Brennan, like I mentioned, in a few moments, we will be joined by Josh Williams. You two are locked in a heated battle for potentially an Xfinity Series playoff spot. You both are inside the top 20 in points. I want to open up with that, Brennan. We definitely lean Xfinity Series on this show because that's where you've made your home this season, had some fantastic runs. Last week in our bonus episode, we talked about the road course West Coast swing. Now I want to talk playoffs because there are 11 races to go before the playoffs start. And if you look at the playoff bubble, there are some pretty interesting names. Ryan Sieg, who came close to winning at Texas, is outside the playoff picture. Anthony Alfredo. Brandon Jones in a junior motorsports car. It has been a struggle. He is currently 74 points out. Brennan, you're sitting there 17th. We're not going to talk about the points value, minus 109, but 17th in points. That's I think coming into this year, would you have considered that mission accomplished, be well inside the top 20? Or are you still I know you're hungry for more, but how are you feeling about where you're at?
I mean, I felt like top 20 in points was possible for our team for sure. Still a long way to go. I know we're ahead of some really good cars. But I don't know, man, we're not that far back still with 11 races left. So I mean, really anything can happen. And we also have Daytona. So who knows what
Daytona? Did y'all race Atlanta before the playoffs? I think so, right?
I think so.
I think you have an Atlanta. I mean, everyone remembers Talladega just a couple months ago.
Almost got it.
You're in the lead.
Got it. We wouldn't have to even worry about this conversation.
Couple hundred yards before the line, the 44 was nosed out front for a moment there. So we know anything can happen.
Last week really hurt us at Iowa. That we had an issue and
running 11th, 12th.
Running 11th.
Tough break.
Just it would have been a huge points day. We definitely would have passed Retzloff and would have been really close to Brandon Jones. He also blew an engine and did not have a good day. So it would have been really close. The 5 wasn't having a spectacular day either. So I would have gained. I'd have been real close. I think I'd have been somewhere there, 14th, 13th in the points. So. I don't know. Well, wait, I'm at 14th, 15th, my bad on that. But so I don't know. It's just still anything can happen. You have a couple of those guys have a couple bad weeks in a row, and then boom, you find yourself right on the edge. So it's tough, and we're all racing really hard, and there is bonus money to be in the top 20 in points. So for like a team like ours, that's pretty huge. So yeah, we're fighting for that. But we really have had fast race cars. Like you said, we talked about the West Coast Swing, 16th. 14th, go to Iowa, run an 11th, blow up. Like we've had fast cars. We've been in good position to score a lot of points. So, we'll just have to see. I mean, the next couple of races for us, I think, will be good ones. I mean, I really like New Hampshire. It's always a tough one though for midfield type cars to just have pace with like the top cars. So we'll see. Probably need some attrition there to have a really great result, but I still think we can run top 20 in New Hampshire. So we'll see. And then turn around and go to Nashville. And then the Chicago Street Course is also like a toss up too. I
Wild
mean,
card. Yeah.
yeah, it's a wild card. So we'll see what happens there as well. So, but I really think if I can get through these the next three and still sort of be in the same position or maybe gain a little bit, get ahead of the 31, maybe the nine. I don't know. The nine's going to be really tough the next couple of weeks, but they have been a little bit off at the road courses, so maybe we gain some of that back at Chicago. There's a lot of moving pieces there as I'm looking at this sheet, but yeah, I think anything can still happen. I think I'm probably still in that mix, but it's going to be tight. We're going to need a couple of those guys in front of us to have some bad days for us to jump up in position. But our goal has been just to put pressure on those top 12 guys, to keep putting pressure on them and to just keep stacking points, and we really have done that. It's just unfortunate what happened to us last week.
Since we're a little more than halfway through the Xfinity Series regular season, at least, this might be a good sort of check-in point, Brennan, to talk about maybe a few drivers who've jumped out at you in a positive way and or a negative way the first part of this season. Like I think of you look at the regulars who've won. We've seen Sam Mayer just won at Iowa, his second win of the year. We've talked about Shane Van Gisbergen, who's won 2 road course races. Chandler Smith has 2 wins as well. We've seen Justin Allgaier in victory lane. A rotating cast of characters in the 20 have made it to victory lane. The Hendricks 17 has been in victory lane. But yeah, I guess, is there anyone that's jumped off the page for you? I guess for me, I look at former guest on the show, Jesse Love, and his rookie Xfinity Series season. He has a win on his resume. I also look at Sam Mayer, who I don't know if you heard his comments after the race at Iowa, but he sounded frustrated that more people aren't considering him for a Cup Series ride. I mean, I looked at the numbers. He's won 6 Xfinity races going back to last summer, as much or more than anyone else. So
Yeah.
there's been some
No, I think
inconsistency there as well. But what do you make of, I guess, Sam Mayer's comments if you heard them?
Yeah, I don't know what I don't know what they see in Sam. I mean, I think Sam does a great job. So I don't know what I'd have to say about that, but
He's really
yeah.
young. My takeaway is he's
Yeah.
only 20 years old. Like he's been winning some races lately, but before that he was extremely inconsistent. So the sample size is kind of small, and because he's only 20 years old, there's drivers out there in their mid 20s, late 20s. Austin Hill is like 30. You're 30. There's a lot of more seasoned, experienced drivers that I think you could
Yeah.
more easily plug into some of these top Cup Series seats. Like, not to get into a whole silly season conversation, but like there's talk of what Joe Gibbs Racing is going to do with the 19, and some people thought, okay, they're going to put Chandler Smith in that seat or Corey Heim in that seat, but no. It sounds like Chase Briscoe, who's 30 years old, who's a seasoned, experienced veteran. You can plug him in and immediately contend. So I think that's the problem with Sam Mayer, is he is still so young. He just needs to be a little more patient, and if he keeps winning, eventually those opportunities are going to fall his way.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've seen that the Cup teams are leaning a little bit more towards the experience and a little bit older, a little bit more
Yeah,
maturity. Not that Sam isn't mature. I'm not saying that. It's just like that seems to be the way that they're leaning right now. I think you always see these cycles where it's like really, really young, and then it's kind of like a little bit more seasoned guys, and it kind of goes back to really, really young again. I think, and really too, like the big thing that matters again is sponsorship money. And I don't know
of
what's going to
course.
come down with the 19 or what. I don't know if the 14 partners that Chase has are going to go with them. I think Sam's sponsors are still pretty much family money in there. I don't know. Sam, yell at me later if that's not the case. I don't know. But so I think there's a lot of stuff at play there on making those decisions, right? So I don't know. I mean, I think Jesse Love has been really fast. He did win at Talladega. Darn it.
Yeah.
But no, good job, Jesse. So like, but same thing, just like more experience, and keep going. But he's fast every week, and he's in the mix, which is I think really good to see. I think he's doing a great job as a rookie. So,
What have you
um,
seen from, not to turn this into a negative conversation, but what have you seen from Sheldon Creed this year? Because he's been so close. Everyone talks about the 10 or 12, how many second place finishes he has, but he's never won a race.
yeah,
He put the pressure on himself, said before the season started, if I can't win in a Joe Gibbs car, I'll go do something else. But he's winless 15, 16 races in. I mean, he's
yeah.
solidly in the playoffs still. He's had a solid year, but I mean, what do you see racing Sheldon Creed regularly?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's still, I mean, I think he's getting a little bit over aggressive at some points where he's in position to win that maybe cost him instead of winning the race, he'd run second, which is coming from the desire and the hunger to win the race. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I think eventually one of these weekends it'll just go his way and they'll just have such a dominant car that he'll win the race. It's been 15 races. It's really not that many. I
Mm-mm.
mean, if you think about it, so I mean, we're not halfway. He's still got 17, 18 more or whatever. So like,
Yeah.
I think I would be surprised if he didn't win, but I think he's doing a good job. And I think for him, he's just got to not lose confidence. It's easy to lose confidence. Like, oh, I've been in this car. I thought I would have won already at this point. Well, it's like, don't think about those things. Think about just your job and what you need to do to accomplish the goals. If you start thinking about other things, you'll just start spiraling out of control and you won't be successful. So my advice to him, and I've told him this to his face this year at Richmond, I'm like, dude, don't lose confidence. You're still the same driver you've always been. You've won in everything, truck champion. Okay.
Yeah.
Once you and your guys start figuring it out, start clicking together, you'll get there. Just keep working and focusing on that. And I told him that. So I don't know. I see. It's like that team sometimes is like really fast and contention to win, and then there are some weekends where they struggle too. But also, when you start to go work with a new team and new crew chief and new everything and new engineers, like it takes a little bit of time to figure out what you need together to win. Like they're trying to figure you out, they're trying to make the right adjustments during the races. Like it's hard, man. It's not just something. It's just like, oh, it's a Gibbs car. You're gonna just win right off the bat. Like there is
Yeah.
a little bit of time working together, and there are times where you see guys that just jump in the Gibbs car and they have such a dominant car they win the race. Is what I am imagining will happen to Sheldon as we go throughout the year, like Sammy Smith winning at Phoenix like last year, like literally second race, third race, or whatever it was, and just like had the best. It was not even. I
Yeah.
mean, he was just so much faster than
He'll be
everyone, and he
due
won the
at
race.
some point. He's in good enough equipment
Yeah,
at some point. Like
it'll
like
happen.
like
Yeah.
Riley Herbst last year. No disrespect to
Mhm.
Riley, he's had some good runs, but like at Las Vegas, he was 15 seconds better than anybody else. Like they just
Yeah.
suddenly hit on everything in that one
Right.
race and
It'll
dominated.
happen at some point. It'll happen
Yes.
at some point. I'm sure.
Like I said, I teased this earlier. We have Josh Williams joining us in a short bit. Excited to ask him about his season so far, his start in racing, get to know the man behind the mullet. But I was going to mention, he struggled this year. We'll ask him about this. Sort of, I'm sure he hasn't gotten the finishes he's wanted. Kaulig racing in general doesn't look to be quite as quick as they've been in years past. I know SVG won back-to-back road course races, but I mean that's his bread and butter. AJ Allmendinger
Yeah.
still looking for his first win of the year, solidly in the playoffs on points. I think he's plus 60, but winless. And Josh Williams winless as well, trying to break in there. I mean, I don't know. Is there anything from Kaulig you've seen that maybe you wonder why they're not contending for wins quite as regularly on traditional ovals, or is it just other teams have gotten a whole lot better? The field has become more compact. It's less. Maybe it's a little. We talked coming into this year about how top heavy the Xfinity Series appears to be, and I think you've proven in some ways with Alpha Prime Racing that maybe it's not quite as top heavy as we thought. Ryan Sieg has almost won a race at Texas. Like that. Maybe it's a little more open. Maybe there are more competitive teams out there than we initially thought coming into this year. I don't know. What do you feel the same way?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot more competitive teams than there's been in a while, and a lot more teams with leased engines and alliances and things like that. Like Ryan Sieg's car is literally a Stewart Haas
I
car
guess
and
that's
literally
true.
comes out of their shop.
Good point.
It's
Yeah.
so it's like I'm not surprised that he almost won Texas. This is Stewart Haas car. So the other cars in their organization I think are their cars, but his is definitely the best of the group because of that alliance. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of them. I mean, Alfredo, full lease motor, they're doing a doing a deal with the 48 team, and they kind of have something going on. I think that's why it's number 5. So like Our and them are like sharing or doing something. I don't know. They've been really fast and solid, and every week. I know he's had a couple rough stretch of races, but that's fine. I like you, Anthony, but keep having problems. I'm trying to catch you, man. But yeah, I mean, if you look at the list of drivers and then you just look at that, I mean, all the way back to 20th, I mean, all the drivers in there, you're like, that little back half of the playoffs, it's Allmendinger, Kligerman, Sammy Smith in the junior car, Sieg, Stuart Hoskar, Alfredo, and RCR, whatever the 48 deal is. Brandon Jones in a junior car. Okay, Retzloff, it's a Jordan Anderson's deal. It's very tight with full ECR engines. They've got some resources there through that. They're really fast. Then it's me, and then Josh Williams in the Kaulig car. Like if you go through the field, it's like, dude, it's pretty stacked. So
Yeah.
I think it just comes down to that, and you can't have any mistakes, man, if you're going to make
Yes, that's
those
true.
playoffs. But I do think Kaulig is not quite as good as they've been in years past. I mean, they really have been almost a dominant force in the Xfinity Series for years with, when they had AJ and
Chastain had a couple of games.
Chastain
Justin
and
Haley won
Justin
those super
Haley.
speedway races.
Yeah, they really were a solid, and they were all in the top 10 like every week. And I think you
Yeah.
see some of their other cars just not quite there like they used to
But it
be.
sounds like
And
other
teams
teams
go
are
through that.
catching up. Like you said, like 3 or 4 years ago, we weren't really talking about the 48. We weren't really talking about our motorsports having the ability to
Mm-hmm.
compete for the top tens on a regular basis. Jordan Anderson wasn't a thing in the Xfinity
Mm-hmm.
Series 3 or 4 years ago. So I think it has, it has become a little more. Maybe it is still top heavy, but there's a lot more teams up here in the top 15 or so than there used to be. And that's tough for a
Yeah.
team like Kaulig or any team. I mean, we just mentioned Junior Motorsports has one car out of the playoffs and another teetering on the bubble. Like that's Junior
Yeah.
Motorsports. So
Yeah.
it's not as easy to just go out and dominate an Xfinity season like it was a few years ago when we saw, was it Chase Briscoe and a Stuart Haas car won 9 or 10 races in a single season? I don't know. Like I mentioned earlier, we have 3 or 4 guys with 2 wins apiece. That's it. I don't think anyone in
Yeah.
Xfinity has 3 wins this year. Like nobody's
Yeah.
just dominating in the Xfinity Series, which has made it fun to watch. I think from a fan's perspective.
Yeah, I think so too. And some rule changes and stuff in there too, I think have like changed the game a little bit. That Xfinity has done with some of the skew and things they took away. So you
That's
don't see the 9 and the Gibbs cars just like dominating the
interesting.
race because
Yeah.
Junior and them had some stuff figured out that was better then. So yeah, I think the field's a little bit more even, but I also think it's just a better group of cars. Like the
Yeah.
cars are just better and closer together. I mean, it's just tough, man. It's just really tough. You can't have any mistakes. If you're gonna run top 20, you better have a perfect day and stay out of trouble and be good on pit road and have good restarts. And there've been a few races. The road courses are always wild where it's like just keep it on the track and survive, and you'll probably have a top 20
Yeah.
day on those, right? But
Yeah.
you go to a place like this weekend in New Hampshire, it's like you're going to have to be perfect to have a top 20 day. And I'm sure the Gibbs cars will be up front and the junior cars will be up front, and then everybody else will be fighting for that second half of the field there. So we'll see what happens. Still, like
Yeah.
you said, a long way to go. Long way to
Long.
go. I need to stack some more points, man.
Absolutely. Before Josh Williams jumps in the call here, I want to get your take on this, Brennan. I don't want to ask you specifically about your free agency plans or all the other crazy rumors that are spoiling. I know this is a hot issue right now. Everyone's talking about it, but there was a quote from Denny Hamlin on his podcast this week that jumped out at me. He was sort of asked, is it better to run 25th on Sundays in a cup car or contend for wins on Fridays and Saturdays in trucks and Xfinity cars? And he said it's always better to contend for the wins. That's how you get noticed if you're looking to build your career, get that great opportunity one day. It's better to be up front, getting that TV time, showing your potential, getting trophies. I want to get your take on that because you've done both. In the past, you've been in a top 10 Xfinity car, and then like as recently as last year, you were in a, let's say, a 25th place cup car part-time, and occasionally would drive that thing up into the top 15, top 16. But from your perspective as someone who's always looking for your next opportunity, I'm sure you want to get to the Cup Series one day and contend for wins. Everybody does. What's your reaction to Hamlin's comments? Do you kind of agree, or are there other factors that come into play when trying to decide what's the best route for you as a driver?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that. I mean, I think it's always better to win. It's really hard to replace trophies, and
Hmm.
that's something I think about constantly. I think for a lot of guys, again, we get into this situation where we just talk about sponsorship money and making the deals work. And for me, I have to race to pay my bills. So I have to find a way to be in a race car. And sometimes the money that you have support wise just doesn't align with some of those opportunities. And yeah, I could take some of that money if I could convince my partners and stuff to do it and maybe run on a part-time basis and in a better car or something like that. But then, you don't, I may not make as much money. And it's like, how do I pay my bill? Like, hey, I'm in a window where like I have to race to live. So, it starts, you start trying to figure out, okay, well, what is the best situation I can be in? What is going to help me get recognized, maybe by some of the other teams? What's going to help me raise more sponsorship money so that I can go to a big team and put myself in that situation? And that's sort of what I've done this year that made my decision to go to Alpha Prime. I felt like watching them last year, racing around them a little bit, like if I could just get in that car, I feel like I could do something really good in it. And I feel like we've had a great start to the year, and I think it has helped me. It has helped some of the other teams, owners, and stuff see what I've been able to do compared to where we've been this year from last year. So I think that's been a good move for me. But ultimately, yes, winning races is always better than like running around 25th in Cup. Cup is great. It's wonderful. I love being a part of it. I love driving for Rick last year and trying to be a part of that program grow, and like you see the great things they're doing this year. Like their
Yeah.
cars have been really fast and multiple top 20 finishes, a couple top 10 finishes. Like they're doing really, really good. And like I would like nothing more than to be a part of that program as well, right? But um I think, to Denny's point, you win races, everybody knows, and that
Yeah.
puts you in a different group of conversations. You still have to have some sponsorship money, but it puts you in a different sort of category. So always important to go for the wins, and that's what I want to do too, right? Like I want to
Hmm.
get in a situation where I can win Xfinity races on a regular basis, and hopefully put myself in a position to be in a really good Cup car one day. I'm getting older, but it seems to be the trend. They're wanting older, more experienced guys. So
Time to
hopefully I
shine.
can put myself in those conversations, right? So,
Yeah.
but it's hard to pass up. You get, what do you consider a 25th place Cup car? I mean, there's a lot of them.
That's
Like,
true.
yeah, the
There's
Cup
yeah.
field is so tight that
Yeah.
like really any of them can run good at any moment. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, they might be a car that runs 25th more regularly, but they still contend for wins sometimes. So, like, is there really a bad Cup car to get into at this point? Not really. I
Yeah.
mean, maybe there might be
Obviously,
a couple, but
obviously, a Hendrick car is going to be better than a Kaulig car right now. But like,
yeah,
but like you're saying, from like 15th on back. I mean, like I didn't mean to be critical of Rick Ware Racing a moment ago or imply that I was, because I mean, this year Rick Ware Racing with Justin Haley, in their last 5 races, they have a ninth, and a 13th. So
yeah, I
even Rick Ware
know.
Racing, who for years everyone was like, oh, Rick Ware, no, they're legit. You get the right guy behind the wheel, you hit on something, like even you can contend that they are even contending now. So
Correct.
what's interesting, and on that note, like from my perspective, watching from afar, I would have 100% agreed with Denny Hamlin a year ago and said like, oh yeah, you want to go where you can win. Running 25th,
Mm.
30th in Cup doesn't do anything for your career, or getting in one of those supposed cars doesn't do anything. Like you looked at what John Hunter Nemechek did. He was at the time front row. Motorsports wasn't super great. He was running 25th to 30th. He chose to go join Toyota. He won in trucks. He won in Xfinity. I know he's struggling this year in Cup, but at least he's with a key Toyota partner. You have a feeling that could build into something great. I feel like in some ways that rejuvenated his career. But speaking of Justin Haley, and I don't know if all the rumors are correct, he says he's loyal to Rick Ware, but it sounds like Justin Haley in a 25th place car this year has turned heads and potentially could go race for a different team if he wanted to. I think he feels confident they're building something really good at Rick Ware. He may not want to leave at this point, but like my point is, Justin Haley got in a 25th place car and has turned heads this year. People are tweeting about him.
Yeah.
People are noticing him. People are talking about him. So I think both routes, if you will, can be valid. But if I'm a race car driver, you want to
You want to
collect
win.
trophies. Exactly.
Yeah, it's
So
really hard to replace trophies in
yeah.
that, like I just want to win. That's what
Yeah.
I I've won a lot of races in my career to this point, and I've just unfortunately not been in the right situation in the top three, series of our sport. But so I'm fighting for that opportunity, and I
Yeah,
feel like I can. I've been so close a couple of times now, and I just, we all just want to win. We're all racers at heart, and
absolutely.
that's the only thing that matters to us. So it would be really difficult to pass up on like a really good opportunity in one of the top Xfinity cars
Sure, yeah.
to just like go fight for wins every single week and go race for a championship. But at the same time, it's like, if a cup opportunity opens up and it's a really almost any of them are good opportunities and it's getting harder and harder to find a seat, it's going to be hard to turn that down also. So you
Absolutely.
really have to, it's tough. It's a tough decision.
Yeah, we just talked about Rick Ware Racing's been running top 10 recently with Justin Haley. I mean, you think about other, 25th place teams. Kaulig Racing won a cup race less than a year ago with AJ
Yeah.
Allmendinger. Like, they can contend. Legacy Motor Club isn't running
Mhm.
particularly well this year, but I think everyone's confident that team is going to only improve as they go, as they
Mhm.
figure out this Toyota partnership. So there really are, to your point, there aren't a lot of bad teams.
Correct.
Even Stewart Haas Racing, who's in a lame duck year going out of business, I thought Josh Berry was going to win
Yeah.
Iowa last week for a few
So did
laps
I
there.
for a little bit.
I
Yeah. I
did
was like,
so.
man.
Anyone seemingly can hit on it just about any week. But I appreciate you leaning or giving your take on that, Brennan. I know you're in the throes of it yourself, figuring out exactly what your plan for next year is going to be, while also trying to race for a playoff spot in
Mhm.
Xfinity. It's a tough position to be in. But with that being said, before we get to our fan question segment at the end of the show, it's time to bring Josh Williams in. Everyone remembers Josh Williams parking it on the front straightaway at Atlanta in protest last year. He's been a great driver for many years, but that for sure was the moment that everyone became a Josh Williams fan. He's been fun to watch the last couple of seasons with Kaulig now. Let's bring him in to discuss this season, his racing beginnings, and so much more. Enter Josh Williams. We are now joined by the one and only Josh Williams. Josh, it's great to see you. How you doing here today, man?
Good, man. Real good. Just sitting out in front of my shop here and talking to you guys.
Hey, nothing better. This is a great day. We are really excited to get to know a little more about the man behind the mullet. But before we talk about some of your racing beginnings, Josh, I do want to talk a little bit about the here and now. You are now with Kaulig Racing. I guess that must be the shop you are parked outside of right now. I wanted to ask you, how did that deal come together? Going back to last year, I guess coming into this year, because I know when it was first announced, Josh Williams to the 11, a lot of folks were surprised, excited. So how did that whole announcement come together?
Yeah, we started talking to him, off and on a little bit about 2 years ago, just to try to get an idea of, what things are and what we needed to do on our end to make it happen. And just kind of got to a point where, really wasn't much going on. And then after Atlanta last year, they actually reached back out to us. So that was pretty cool to get that phone call and try to put this deal together. But it's fun. It's a lot of people were surprised because, I mean, Brennan knows this as well. It's like people like us, we really don't get that opportunity often. So it definitely shocked the world.
You mentioned Atlanta. So the Atlanta moment really was, it did turn out to kind of be a catalyst that sparked those conversations.
Yeah, that's why Matt thought it was the coolest thing he's ever seen. So.
Hey, it's up there in one of my like top NASCAR moments of all time. I thought
Yeah,
like I was in the race and I was like, what is going on? And then my spotter was telling me everything was, and I just see you walking across the infield. I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, this is going to get large. But so, I mean, at the end of the day, our sport's still for entertainment. And so that brought a ton of entertainment. I think everybody really enjoyed it. Maybe NASCAR not so much, but I mean, still, man, I thought it was
yeah,
pretty cool.
yeah. They were mad.
well, well, it's awesome to see where it's led. I want to ask you a little bit about this season, because I do know this there've been challenges this year. You probably haven't gotten all the results that you
Yeah.
were hoping to get this first half, but I guess, can you talk about that a little bit? What have been the biggest challenges you faced this first year with Kaulig Racing?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just getting used to the equipment and the different resources and stuff that I haven't had in the past. So, I mean, I'm trained to drive a certain way for the last 7 years, right? So, swapping over to something different is it's been a challenge. It's a different feel, right? So, what I'm looking for, what I think is what I need, is not what I need to go fast, right? So, we've made good progress on it, as far as me getting used to things, and we've had some good runs, and then we've had bad luck or just bad runs. So we're gaining on it and making progress. I'm getting better. We're starting to click with the team and things like that, and build those relationships. So we got some good races coming up for us, I think, and Iowa was one that I was looking forward to, but with just circumstances and the tire deal kind of hurt us a little bit. But we were on our way to a good finish there too. So we've got speed. We just got to put it all together.
It seems like the last couple of weeks you have found a lot more pace, and like you said, I guess is that just coming from learning how to use those resources, and also maybe just learning what you need more in your race car to go fast, like you were talking about. Can you just talk about that a little bit more?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the biggest thing is what we can do to still have speed, but make me have the feel that I want, right? So we've done a lot to make that right, and everybody at Kaulig's put in the effort to make those things better for me. So we're getting closer, and I think the second half of the year is should be where we pick it up and have those more consistent finishes up front.
Yep, still 11, well, at least as of the time we're recording this, 11 races until the Xfinity Series playoffs begin. Still a long way to go. Great chance to mount that charge. I want to go back to the beginning, though, Josh. A lot of folks know you, know about your racing beginnings, but what did initially spark your interest in driving race cars? When did you first get behind the wheel?
My dad, he raced. I mean, I started racing go-karts in South Florida when I was 4 or 5 years old, and they built me a go kart when I was just before I turned 3, and my mom was super pissed off about that. So everybody had like Power Wheels and those like pedal bikes and stuff, and I had a go kart. So,
Man, I would have been jealous of you
but I
as a
mean,
kid.
yeah, yeah. Well, some of the other kids were like, "That's too fast," and my dad's like, "He's fine. Don't worry about it."
And
So
me and my next door neighbor would race Power Wheels, and that was the closest to a thrill we could
yeah,
get, going 3 miles an hour down the driveway, drawing like ovals with sidewalk chalk. So yeah,
yeah,
that's crazy.
yeah, yeah. So that was pretty cool, and just my dad raced all the way up until 2007. So I mean, I was always at the racetrack, and either I was racing or he was racing. So um, it's just something that I always wanted to do, and I really didn't think that I was gonna like commit to this as like a career or something that I was gonna do forever. I mean, at this point, I can't do anything else, right? I mean, I'm pretty much committed to motorsports. So, probably when I was like 14, 15 years old, I was like, man, you know, I'm gonna try to make this my living. So, I feel like I've done a good job at it so far, and even if I don't get to drive race cars, I mean, I still work on them. I'm actually at my shop in Concord, so
Hmm.
we still do legends, bandos, and late models, and all kinds of stuff over here. So I know there's a guy in the room there that loves legends cars. So.
Yeah, I'm a fan of the legend cars, but and that's the thing, you and I have raced against each other a long time. I mean, in the
Yeah,
legend cars, and I don't know if we raced that much in late models. We raced ARCA against each other for several years. So
yep,
I feel like I've always seen you around and always, looked at you, and I hope you look at me the same way too, but just like as a real racer, someone that worked on their own
yeah,
stuff that understands what it takes to be successful and how difficult it is in this sport. And I know you really understand the business side of things as well. And I think that's super important, like nowadays for drivers. There's
yeah.
a lot of young drivers that are coming in now that may not understand all of those things. And I think that that's a disadvantage where maybe some guys like me and yourself sort of have that understanding. And I think it's better that way.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, go back to the old clay hair days, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I was in clay shop straightening front clips, and with the eyelet in the floor, and bending
hmm
Rerenhausen's back around and stuff. So I mean, and I think that's the way that I mean that's the way it should be, right? I think, in my opinion, but it's not like that all the time. But
Yeah.
it's cool. I feel like your story is a little bit better when you have that full blown racer's background, and I mean, like you brought your own car to the racetrack, you've worked on your own stuff,
hmm
you know what everything does. I mean, you can put the
Yeah.
car together, you can do stuff like that, and I think that helps, you know from the aspect of working with your crew chief or whoever it may be. But um yeah, the old school way is it's kind of diminishing quickly.
Yeah, it is. But no, I I know I appreciate that. That's something I really appreciate about you too. But I know as your teammate over there, SVG, I've seen you this year, man. You've picked up some serious pace on the road courses.
Oh
Does
yeah.
that come from some meetings and discussions with him? Like, how's it been working with him as a teammate?
Yeah, so he has 3 feet. I still have two, so I haven't made that step yet. But yeah, it's kind of cool, working with SVG. Like when we go to oval, like he'll follow me off pit road during practice. We go to road course, I follow him. So, and it's helped a ton, man. At Sonoma, I feel like I messed up in qualifying behind Shane at Sonoma, so I hurt us pretty bad there, and we had to start deep in the field. But we made our way up to the front, and almost right inside the top 10, and just circumstances, right? So
Yeah.
road courses are fun. Like I love them. I'm not very good at them yet, but they're so much fun. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
we're making progress on that part. But yeah, being teammates with him's cool, and he's like the nicest person in the entire world. I mean, he's so nice, and I mess with him all the time. Like I rolled up, I don't know, we had to pit or something, and I rolled up behind him at Iowa. I rolled up behind him because he was flipping me off out the window. So I roll up next to him. We flip each other off for like 4 laps, like back and forth. And then after the race, like he's just, we get on the airplane and he's laughing, and it's just he's just a good dude, man, and he has fun.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
fun to
that's
see
awesome.
you guys. You were up in Victory Lane at Sonoma, I think it was. I know your day didn't go the way you wanted, but you were still there celebrating with the team. That's what we've always I feel like from a fan's perspective, watching Kaulig, no matter who the drivers they have are, it always feels like a really good group, a close knit, a group of drivers, and between Chris Rice and Matt Kaulig, the whole team, it always feels like the vibe is strong at Kaulig. So that definitely comes through. The outside looking in, we can kind of see that, I think, and it's one of the reasons fans resonate with that team and with all you guys. So. I wanted to ask you, Josh, to kind of talk about the future. I have to ask the hard questions sometimes on this show, but it's that time of year where drivers are trying to figure out their deals for next season.
Yeah.
Do you know what you're going to be racing next year? And if not, how challenging is it to try and race for a playoff spot? Finish out this year when you still have those
Yeah.
uncertain business dealings going on in the background.
Yeah. No, I mean, next year, I mean, I'm still good for next year. I'll be in the 11 again. Um, that was a 2-year deal. So,
Nice.
now the year after that, I don't know yet. So we'll see how that goes. But, it is for me, man, it's this sport's super tough, right? Because it's starting before there was like more teams than there was drivers, and now there's way more drivers than there are teams. So, I mean, you even see it in the Cup Series, right? I mean, people are battling over charters. It's like an episode of Storage Wars. You know what I mean? So it's like there's it's just super tough, to find a seat, and I mean then it's hard. Okay, so it's hard to find a seat, but it's even harder to find sponsorship to even go find a seat, right? So it's it's a whole circle of things that you have to put together. So we're constantly working on that too. I mean, sponsorship wise, I mean, you have to look ahead. So, I mean, it's a nonstop battle. And I mean, I think that's the hardest thing in motorsports. I mean, driving race cars these days is probably the least of your worries. I mean, you got to be able to sell yourself and make your partners happy and things like that.
I know Brennan talks about that on the show all the time, how driving the race car isn't even half the battle these days. It is so much more than that. I think fans, I think more and more through, conversations like this and the other, just social media, more access than ever, people are starting to like realize that. But I think for the longest time, everyone just assumed it was, a 2-day a week job. You show up Friday, Saturday, or Saturday, Sunday, and that's kind of where it starts, stops, and ends. And that's just not the case. And I think people are starting to, like, more casual fans are starting to realize that, no, this is 365 days, and just driving the race car is like the icing on the cake when it's all said and done.
Yeah, that's the fun part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fun part is getting to drive the race car. That's why we all keep doing this craziness. But yeah, it is. It's so challenging, as we both know. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit too about all the charity stuff that you do for the children's hospitals, and sort of like, what made you get involved with that? I did some stuff with the Children Miracle Network hospitals, and did a car where all the kids designed and stuff. And that stuff's always been kind of important to me. And I see you as being one of those guys that also is like outspoken about the stuff that they do. And so I was curious how, you got involved and all this. It's so cool. I don't know if you guys know this, but he does like the little garage tour with like I don't
Yeah,
know, what do you call it?
I've seen that.
You talk about it. You talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so like you probably seen in Phoenix and some other places, Omni Robots, Omni Labs. They kind of partners with us a little bit a couple years ago, and the little it's a basically a tablet on like a I call it like a it looks like a Roomba, right, with a stick on it. So it's but they're so cool, man. So we'll talk about the hospital tour, but I'm gonna get to this. The the kids that may not be able to like leave their room or something like that, they can actually sit in their room on a computer and drive this robot through the garage and roll through inspection, look at the cars and check out the cars and meet some of the other drivers. And it's been super cool to add that element to our hospital deal because, I mean, not everybody can, is privileged enough to be able to do those things. So to bring that in has been great. But we started doing this deal 2014, 2015. Um, just a friend of ours we had a small sponsor on our ARCA car, and one of their family members, I think she was 6 or 7 years old at the time, and she was battling leukemia. And we thought it'd be really cool to go see her at the hospital and stuff. And we brought our speedway car, and a bunch of the kids came down and looked at it. We gave them hero cards and hung out for a little while. And I left that place in tears. Because I was younger, right? So the first time just seeing some of the kids and the parents and what they're going through and listening to their stories, it's like this is tough. So we left, and I was like, man, it'd be cool, if we could do this again. And so we did it a few more times. And before, when we first started, like, we would call the hospital and say, hey, is it cool if we come visit? We'll bring a car, or, even if we didn't bring a car or whatever. And they're like, oh yeah, that'd be pretty cool. And now they call us. They're like, hey, we heard from such and such at this hospital that you guys do this. That'd be super cool. And we started doing a lot of stuff with Seacrest Studios with Ryan Seacrest. So basically, it's like a DJ studio inside, and they live stream, everything that goes on in the studio to all the rooms, and the kids can be interactive, and they can run the show. And um, it's cool to see those kids have a little moment to where they're just having fun. They could completely forget about why they're in there. And partnering with those guys and being able to be involved with the Seacrest family. And I mean, I call Ryan's parents mom and dad, right? So I mean, it's just cool to be around people like that care and that want to give back to the community. So it's been really cool to progress and grow this into something bigger and just bring awareness, man. And the Atlanta deal, with the park in the car, we got to sell a bunch of T-shirts, and we took that money and we donated it to the Seacrest Foundation so we could build more studios for these kids. So um, it means a lot to me. And even if I stopped racing tomorrow, I'd still figure out a way to go and to be involved and just give them a little bit of my time to maybe take something off their mind for a little while.
Yeah, you're just really genuine guy, Josh. It's great getting to talk to you, and I think you're a great racer too. And obviously, I've enjoyed all the years we've spent racing against each other and getting to talk at the track. So it's awesome that you're doing all of that stuff, and I think it's pretty special, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been cool, man. I mean, hey, like you said, we've been around each other for years since we was kids. So it's cool to see, man. And this is a tough sport, and to be around some of the people that you grew up racing with is phenomenal. Because I mean, this is a tough business that we chose to be a part of.
Yeah.
There's only 38 of us that get to race on Saturday in the world, and there's so many guys that want to do it. And yeah, it's nuts when you think about the guys that some of these guys we have been racing against each other for so long, and to see the ones that have made it into the top three is it's pretty wild because we've all known each other since we were 10, 12, 14. It's
Yeah,
like the same. Some of them are the same kids we always raced against. It's just kind of a wild how that
yeah,
works out.
yeah. It's crazy. Like when I run my first Cup race, the Bristol Dirt Race, a couple years ago for BJ. I don't remember what the stat was or something, but he said, like there's only been X amount of people in the entire world to ever start a Cup race, and like the number is
Yeah,
not as high as you think it'd be, right? I mean,
yeah,
the Cup Series has been around for a long time, and it's really not
yeah.
that high. So, I mean, it's crazy the amount of racers, right? I mean, think about it. Think how many Saturday night short tracks there are, all across the country. I mean, everywhere. and there's only, like you said, there's only 38 of us to take the green every Saturday. I mean,
Yep.
it's wild to think about.
Yeah, incredible stuff. Josh, this has been a awesome conversation, but before we let you go, I've got one final question for you. You talked about how you've raced since you were a little kid. You also talked about how tough the business is. So I want to ask, what motivates you to keep driving race cars? What keeps you racing all these years later?
So I tell people all the time, racing is the worst drug you'll ever do. There's no rehab. There's nothing to fix it, right? And you know, being standing in victory lane is different, right? It's just a different feeling. It doesn't matter if you're at Hickory on Saturday or you won the Daytona 500. It doesn't matter. You feel the same way, and I think that's my drive, man. I mean, I've wanted everything I've ever drove. I mean, it's just, I mean, you know, Brennan's the same way. You know, it's like you want to win at the top series, like you want to be that guy. So I think that's what keeps me going, and you know, I just motorsports has been my life since I was a kid. I mean, I've never done anything else. I've never had a normal job. I've nothing. I've always tried to make a living in racing, whether working for somebody else on race cars or, you know, driving for a paycheck to, you know, so I can make it through the week and hopefully somebody calls me to do a start and park next week so I can pay the bills. So I mean, it's just what I've done. So it's a passion of mine and it's basically life.
That's awesome. Well, you've been a lot of fun to watch these last few years. I guess that's all I've got, Brennan. It's been a great conversation. Josh, really appreciate you taking some time to join us here on Power Hour. Good luck this next weekend and the rest of this season, man. We'll be rooting for you.
Yeah, man. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
See you in New Hampshire.
Really appreciate Josh Williams hopping in here. Really good stuff from him. It's hard not to like Josh Williams. Like I get why he's a fan favorite. He's earned every bit of that. It's funny. I told him, hey, good luck the rest of the season, and I forgot that you're racing against him. So like you're kind of rooting for him to have good luck, but you're also neck and neck in the points. So I didn't. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I didn't
Can't
know
go against your co-host. Don't go against your co-host.
I know. I forgot where my loyalty lies first, I suppose. So I should have wished Josh nothing but bad luck. Sorry about that, Brennan. If he ends up leapfrogging you in points at some point this year, that's on me. I brought him too much luck there. But no, in all seriousness, do appreciate Josh Williams jumping on the show. We'll wrap things up, Brennan, with our fan questions. And fan questions are brought to you by Circle B Diecast. Use code OOTG for discounted shipping at circlebdiecast.com. Truly appreciate their support as always. We've got some good ones this week, Brennan. Our last episode, a lot of people were chattering about our bonus episode last week, and that included some great, some not so great questions. We'll cover a bit of both. I think we got some interesting questions this week. Our first question, I think, is a great question, no doubt, from Shmeev. I hope I'm saying that right. With the CW coming in, do you think they should market the Xfinity Series differently than Fox, rather than the where people learn your name strategy, instead pushing it as an almost retro series? I could see it being successful. Everything the Cup cars aren't: solid axle, wheel hopping, sliding out. Would give you guys more of an identity instead of just the Cup Series minor leagues? Great question and commentary there from Shmeev. How do you feel about that, Brennan? Do you think if the names are made here, do you think that's old, tired, should be changed?
I mean, I think they definitely are going to make some changes to that. I definitely think it's going to be marketed differently than the way Fox did it, for sure. I think the CW is really going to try to do their own thing here. And I think they're more interested in sharing more of the stories of the drivers themselves, individually, right? Like not just, talking about the core, like five guys that are up front. They're going to really try to share the stories and really bring you guys into what it's like throughout the entire field, because each team is like their total, it's like each team could have their own reality show, right? I mean, like every team is so different. There's so much stuff going on, teams that are barely making it, teams that are on the fringe but doing well, and maybe bringing young guys in, or pushing stuff here and there, trying to just like make races. And then you got your core midfield guys that like have a decent amount of money and just like really real hard racers that just love to race and are just like fighting with everything that they have, and sort of what that looks like. And the guys that are like flying on commercial and like leaving at their house at 3 a.m. and then also driving a race car that afternoon, like those types of stuff. That I think they're more interested in trying to share more of those stories of the Xfinity Series, because we are a little bit more. I mean, I guess retro is an interesting way of putting it, but
Yeah.
like we are that old school hard group in a way still, where in the Cup Series, there aren't guys that are like, leaving their house at 3 in the morning to fly on a commercial flight at 6 a.m. and then go
Yeah.
push the cars through tech and then, like staying in like some of the craziest hotels that you've ever stayed in your life. But, they're not, it's just what you do to race, right? And I think they have, this idea of sharing that with everybody more so you could get to know the teams and the drivers more. And I'm really for that. I think it should be like that, similar to like what I don't want to say Drive to Survive or whatever, because it's not going to be like that or anything like that. But like that's sort of what happened there, right? It's like they opened this world up to get for you to know the drivers.
Yeah.
And then it was like, whoa, this is great. And then, I think it's kind of not been as much sense. But I think it would be great to just open up the doors like that a little bit into these teams and into these drivers and the crew chiefs and the people that are working on these cars and show you like what it's about. And I think that seems to be, from my understanding, the route that they want to go in. So I think that'll
Cool.
be really cool if they do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to what the CW brings, and they will begin. I don't know if they'll be fully producing the broadcast this year, but I know they will be showing the races on the CW towards the end of this year. I don't remember exactly when that switch over happens, but that's something to keep an eye on. I do like Shmeev's comment here or suggestion. I don't know if retro is the right word to use, but there is,
Yeah.
like you're saying, a certain like grit and old school vibe to the Xfinity series that maybe the Cup Series in some ways used to have, or I would say more the Truck Series used to have it. Everyone calls the Truck Series the third series, and in some ways that is true. But you go back to the mid '90s when it was formed, and even the early 2000s, a lot of the veterans who made that series what it is, the Mike Skinners, the Ron Hornadays, like those weren't young, 20-year-old fresh-faced kids wheeling those trucks.
Yeah.
Those are men, grown, gritty, hardworking men with hair on their chest. The Truck Series had its own identity beyond just being the third series. So I think you are getting to a point where the Xfinity Series isn't just AAA. It's not just the minor leagues. There is a different, distinct vibe. And to Shmeev's point, I hope the CW is able to spotlight that the way you're suggesting, Brennan, as well. So I'm encouraged. I'm excited to see what they do with the series now that the Xfinity Series has its own solely dedicated broadcast partner beginning, I guess, at the end of this year, going into next year. Our next question, this is an interesting one that I honestly kind of wish we could ask more playoff or more drivers. But PH68 asks, what is the general opinion of the playoff system between drivers? And then they go on to say that they've grown to not really like it. They think sometimes other people don't take NASCAR as seriously because of the way NASCAR crowns its champions. Brennan, how do you feel about the playoff format? And do drivers, like, on stage at driver intros or in the garage, do y'all talk about the format much?
I don't think we talk about it that much anymore. I mean, in the very beginning, when they started to change it more with the rounds and knocking guys out and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, I think we talked about it some. But I mean, at the end of the day, we really don't have much say over it. We just have to race within the platform. But I mean, I personally do like where like the entire season and who ran the best over the entire year wins it all rather than just getting down to 10 races and then
Who gets hot and
yeah,
yeah.
who hits on something and then whoever is the highest finisher in the last race kind of seems kind of like, well,
Yeah.
because racing is not like I feel like it's hard to put it on, even in like NBA or basketball, baseball, whatever. Football, like football is one game and done, but like, there's like series, right? And it's like you play the best team and then you go for 7 games and who wins the most. And it's like you can't really do that in our sport. So I feel like I like when it's, you're rewarded for how well you do over the whole year, but I don't think there's any going back from it at this point. I think the fans kind of enjoy that, like, hey, man, you make it to this final race, like anything can happen. Like any one of our guys, like if you're a fan and you guys in that final race, like it's not already determined weeks ago, it's like, man, my guy could win today. And I think that part of it is really good for the fan base because there's like 4 drivers in the top 4. All their fan bases are like, oh my gosh, we have a chance to win a championship today. And everyone is together watching this madness happen. So it creates a lot of tension and a lot of excitement. So I agree with that part of it that it does do that. I just think for the drivers and the teams, we're just kind of like, man, it would be cool if it was still like the whole year, but I don't think it'll ever change because of the craziness that the playoffs create. There's so much
Yeah.
like whoa, like what just happened? Like, you
Yeah.
didn't see it last year with the trucks, like Ben Rhodes winning the championship and,
Yeah, that
Hosted
last race was
taken
a
out
little
high.
silly.
And it was just like, whoa, this is nuts, right? Like,
Yeah.
and while it kind of like as a racer, and some people were like, I didn't really like it, but the fans have created so much entertainment,
And
so much
to
stuff to
talk
talk
about.
about. So,
Yeah.
like, yeah, like
It's a
so
tough balance. It really is.
tough. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know he's asking about, or PH60 is asking about drivers' opinions. I think you kind of touched on it. NASCAR, unlike most other sports, it's not all or nothing where there's one winner, one loser. Like in NASCAR, you score a 6th place run, that's a good day. You didn't win, but that's a good day for most teams. You know what I mean? And so to do that all or nothing final race, that's probably my one hang up. I like the playoff format overall. Maybe it's because I grew up watching more stick and ball sports, so I understand the whole, hey, be good in the regular season, but you bring your best the final 10 races. Like you show up in the playoffs. October matters, things like that. I get that. I understand that feeling, but an all or nothing finale it opens yourself up to some silliness like we saw in trucks. Maybe if they open that up to a final round, like others have suggested, you might be adding playoff races. Maybe it's a 12 race instead of 10 race playoffs, but that at least, you probably won't have the championship decided until the final race still. And it's a little more, I want to say it's closer to what you're suggesting of there being like a series instead of an all or nothing one race, because that's never really how motorsports, or at least NASCAR, have been. It's more about
And we
your
don't play on the
progress.
same field either. It's not the same quarter, same field. So like if you just like are with the team that struggles at Phoenix,
That's tough. Yeah.
sorry, buddy.
Good point. Good point. Final question, and this one we joked earlier about some questions being better than others. No disrespect, too tough, too tame. 48 here, but this was an interesting question, Brennan. This is the real question that you've been waiting to be asked all these years. Does Brennan Poole like pools? What's his favorite pool? I'll let you answer that first before I continue.
Oh man, I feel like it sounds like you might be my best friend. Too tough to tame 48. I'm not sure, but that sounds like a question they would ask me. Yeah, man, I like pools, of course. Who doesn't? I'm a water guy, so
Okay.
what is my favorite pool? How about a pool that has like a swim up bar that serves like tacos? Like you could get like some skirt steak, a little spicy, a little like some Spanish style. You know what I'm saying? And
Okay. Yeah.
get a little drink at the pool, hang out. Like that would be fantastic. It's hard to top that pool, you know what I'm saying? In the sun, wonderful. But yeah, man, I love to swim. I love surfing and all that kind of stuff. So I'm a water
Nice.
guy. Anytime
All
I can
right.
jump in a pool, it's great, right? And I have to with a last name like mine.
Of course.
Maybe I should have owned a pool company. I don't know.
Ooh, pools.
Pools.
I'd go to you. I would make that. That would be a good pairing.
Right? Pools, fantastic pools. There's so many, you could just make so many plays on that name.
There is a second half to Too Tough, Too Tame 48's question. Does Eric Estep like steps? What's his favorite step? What, like the
You got to think about this though, because
like
it
a
could be like
two-step?
any type of step. It doesn't even have to be a dance move. Think about just steps in general.
I'm thinking of stairs. I'm like, Stairway to Heaven. There's this, it's a good song. Stair steps to get to my bedroom to go to sleep at night. That's always a nice That's a nice walk. I'm like, yeah,
The
it was a long day.
first step in like making some Belgian waffles, the
Yeah.
first step, you know what I mean? It could be
Like a
anything.
step-by-step guide, I suppose.
Step by step guide. Your big step by step guide guy.
I like to kind of wing it more times
Follow.
than not.
Oh, you wing it. You don't follow the directions.
I just think when I see too many directions and if like something like a Lego set, there's step by steps and there's all these little pieces. I'm afraid I'm going to lose a piece, and it's like a puzzle. You lose one piece, you won't know it until the
it's
very
over.
end, and that's so infuriating. You feel like you've wasted hours. So I don't know. Yeah, favorite step. I don't even
There's
know.
too many steps to pick.
I don't know. The next step. That's my favorite
The
step.
next
What's
step.
next?
There you go. Perfect.
That's some
Way
profound
to get out of
stuff.
that question. Way to get out of that question.
I'm a professional. On that note, Brennan, that's going to do it for another episode of Power Hour. A legitimate episode. We had a full-on guest and everything. We know we did a bonus episode last week that a lot of folks were chit-chatting about. So if you missed it, be sure to check out last week's bonus episode of Power Hour. Not sure how often we'll do bonus episodes, but it is fun, Brennan, to sit down here, catch up, more regularly than we typically do. But this was a great episode. Not sure when our next one will be, but we've got some other exciting guests we've reached out to, hoping to get those locked and loaded. Final thoughts, Brennan, before we wrap things up and head to New Hampshire this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely enjoyed the bonus episode. Hopefully, we get to do more. I really want to do like a holiday themed one, like Halloween or Christmas or
Ooh,
whatever. Do a little bonus
okay.
episode for the fans. But yeah, I'm looking forward. I love going to New Hampshire, so it's gonna be a fun weekend. I love going up there. I don't know if I'm gonna eat any lobster, but who knows? We'll see.
I like how I said, oh, we're heading up to New Hampshire. I'm not going to New Hampshire. You are. So have fun. I
Hmm.
will be watching from afar. Should be a good time. I'll see you in Nashville in 2 weeks, though. That'll be a good time.
Yeah, yeah, we're gonna
So,
have a great time.
absolutely. Thank you all so much for listening. Appreciate CircleBDiecast.com, as always, for sponsoring the show. We will catch you next time on Power Hour. Have a good one, y'all.